Hello, and this is Matt Montgomery, Burris Sales Agronomist. Today we're going to talk about a topic that seems kind of timely right now. We're talking about this in June of 2016, but it applies to any year that we encounter droughty conditions. We seem to be getting ready to hit a really dry spell, and we're already beginning to see corn curling up. That rough-looking pineapple-like appearance from corn that's under drought stress. So we just decided to throw together a little video that talks about why corn does this. Why does corn curl up when it's hot? I don't need to remind you what curled up corn looks like, what drought stress looks like, those initial symptoms of drought stress look like in corn. You can see why I call it pineappling, because it really does look like that. It looks very different. You get that silvery look to it. You get that very thin leaf structure because it's rolled up. And again, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to try to describe why you see this strange symptom out in the field. It's actually a really interesting mechanism that the plant has developed to protect itself. This is my idealized cross section of a corn leaf, and I'm going to describe in the slides that follow some of the different aspects of this diagram. I want to describe each point in the diagram so you can follow this discussion that we're going to have. To begin with, I want you to recognize these little dots inside the leaf, and that's my representation of water molecules within the plant. Remember, water's being drawn into the roots, it's going up through the vascular system of the plant, and then it's reaching the leaf tissue and eventually is filtering out. And this is my representation of those water molecules within. Now, there are also water molecules in the air outside that leaf. And you can see here, I've represented a kind of average to high humidity situation. Lots of little water molecules floating in the air, kind of crowding up that atmosphere. We also want to point out this really important structure. Remember, we have these little stomates, or stomata would be the right way to say that. Stomate is the singular term, and stomata is the plural term. And these are little holes in the leaf that water moves out of and gases move into. It's a pathway by which those little molecules in the leaf can exit out into the atmosphere. And we want this water stream to kind of flow through the plant a little bit because we get turgor pressure. We get pressure building up within the plant, kind of like your garden hose, and that's what gives the plant its upright nature. If we begin to lose that pressure, then the plant wilts, and we really don't want to see that happen with corn. We also have one other very interesting structure, and this is a key structure for our discussion about why corn curls up. And these are these large cells called Bulliform cells, or what I might call bladders in some ways. These little bladders in the leaf that expand and shrink in size, and they're really the key to why the leaf curls up. So I want you to notice the situation that we have right here. We have these little water molecules inside the leaf that are going to try to exit through those little stomates, those little openings. And we have this real crowded field out there in front of the leaf that they're going to move into. And if you think about it, when relative humidity is high like this, it's kind of a crowded area for those little water molecules to move out into. And so water loss from the plant slows down. We don't have that rapid movement of the water stream out of the plant, and so it kind of slows down and the pressure kind of stays high in that plant and keeps that upright nature. Droughty conditions are a very different situation though. We can have low humidity, that can be a type of droughty condition, right? And we have this less crowded field of water molecules, and so it's much easier for those water molecules to exit through the stomates and go out into the atmosphere. Water loss therefore speeds up. This is the diagram we're going to use to kind of talk about this concept today. Or you can think about the plant absorbing lots of heat, and it gets those water molecules all jazzed up, and they can come bursting through those stomates, out of those stomates rather rapidly. We can have a lot more rapid water loss when we have heat. Either one of those give you this idea that when we have heat, when we have a droughty condition, water loss from the plant increases. and that can create a deficiency in that pressure in the plant and can lead to wilting, which is really bad for a plant. Now, the corn plant has developed this real cool mechanism, and those are those little bladders, those bulliform cells that we talked about earlier. And as the plant becomes water stressed and water begins to move out of cells, right? It's moving out of the plant, so it's moving out of cells. Those little bulliform cells down there in kind of the center bottom part of the diagram begin to shrink. And as they begin to shrink, they begin to draw in the leaf. And we're going to depict that in the graphics that follow. But you can begin to see why we have that curling, and I'm going to show you why that curling is so important. So we have water exiting the plant. It kind of puts that plant under water stress. Water begins to get pulled out of those little bulliform cells, and those bladders shrink up and begin to draw in the tissue around it. Now I want you to notice what just happened here. We had this uncrowded field for water molecules to move into, right? So it was very easy for them to find, if we want to think of it, a space for them to go into. Real easy for them to find some place to go. And as the plant curls up, we create this artificial zone of higher humidity. So it becomes much more difficult for those little water molecules to burst out of the stomates and find a lot of room to go out in there. That high humidity helps maintain water within the plant and helps maintain water pressure within the plant. And it all has to do with those little bladders decreasing in size and causing the leaf to curl up. This is a real neat defensive mechanism that the corn plant has. Yes, it's a sign that the plant's under stress, but it's a real cool mechanism that the plant has developed so that it just doesn't outright die. Now, the other interesting thing that this does is it decreases the surface area of the plant. And that means it decreases the area of the plant receiving radiation. So it decreases the heat that's accumulating within the plant, maybe tames down those little water molecules getting so jazzed up. Now that's our quick little description for why corn plants curl. Just an interesting discussion that explains what you might be seeing this weekend or in seasons to follow.